business is about solving problems, then that would be a very big challenge you're trying to take on. As opposed to, instead of solving a problem, why not look at the fact is, what is the big purpose you want to solve?
Okay, welcome to another episode of Startups.Zone weekly talk. Today we have Dato James Foo with us, founder of 80 Startups, so I call him Mr. Startup. Very happy you're here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, thanks for coming here. So as I mentioned already, 80 Startups is very impressive, but we want to understand first, from how you grew up, how you were in school, how did that all happen? So if you can just introduce yourself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just start with, was founded more than 80 startups, but what's left today, I think it's about 23.
Mm-hmm.
What's left is 23. And we'll talk more later on the stage.
Yes.
But where I was from, was that right?
Yeah.
So where I was from was, family from Teluk Intan. It's up north, somewhere near Ipoh side.
Okay.
So family was from there. My dad actually, his father came down from China.
Mm-hmm.
Literally swam down from China. And
Swam down.
literally, my grandfather actually swam down from China.
Wow.
Right, literally.
Okay.
And my dad was, I think, the eldest in the family of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, his father was actually a chef, a chef, Hainanese chef, and he cooked for a lot of what we call the army people.
Okay.
Right. Unfortunately, he didn't have much time at home.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always busy working, right? And at the age of 8, his mother passed away, right? But his dad was always was his so-called role model.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the old school, when they come back and they teach their children, they use it with a belt.
Wow. Okay.
Right, that's the way of training the kids to
Is
wear.
that the army style? Or
Army
just
style, I
like-
guess.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. And so what happened was, he actually decided to, I'm not sure I can take too much of this, right? And he actually ran away to another relative's house, which was in Penang. So from Penang, it's quite a distance. And after a few, I think about a year or so, he said, "What am I going to do? I don't have much education." So he followed an uncle, start repairing a lot of those electrical equipments. Repair the air condition, the refrigerator, and that's how he started off.
Okay.
Right? He literally started off from that. I think, but more than 16 years old, he decided to okay, this is no future here. I think I should move out to Kuala Lumpur, which he did. So he came down, and he stayed in KL, somewhere near Berjaya Times Square, around there, and he was paying people money. I think about 1 or 2 cents. He was saying 1 or 2 cents. He was paying for rental, and he decided I will start repairing things to earn a livelihood. So he said, but what's the best way to do marketing? Because nobody know what business you're doing, right? So he saw those poles, those lamp poles, and he saw a lot of people stuck a lot of name and number there. And he said, okay, that's a good idea, So he put his name and number, he put it up onto the pole. When he came down the pole, he had a beating of his lifetime.
Seriously, why is that?
So these triads, or the gangs, said, this is my pole. This pole number X to pole number don't know what, is mine. If you want to do business, you go find some other pole. And he was like, okay, but teach you a lesson, don't go nail any signboard
Just
or
like any pole, right?
Yeah, okay. So, and he was like, wow, okay, so I'm so sorry. Long story short, he just went on and do a lot of electrical work. Repairing refrigerators, air conditions, anything that was electrical based. Because his uncle was one who taught him those things. And what happens was, one particular gentleman, he went to his house to start repairing his refrigerator, right? And he said, but he's never been in the rich man's house before. Never, and he's very fearful that he would break something. So he's very cleaning up over everything he saw. Until the man was like, what's wrong with you? But he liked him because he's cleaner than his mate. He cleaned the place cleaner than his mate. He liked it. So he said, when he fixed the thing, he said, okay, I'm happy, you pay me, I go. He said, no, my aircon is spoiled, go fix it.
Okay.
So he said, no, I don't know how to fix aircon. I only know how to fix refrigerator. And he started scolding him. And go like, why are you scolding me? I don't know how to fix. No, you must learn. You're a young man, must learn, And he goes like, okay, but if I break it, I can't pay for it. And he went on and on. Long story short, that gentleman was actually Lim Gotong. Right, Genting Highlands, the founder.
Yeah.
So that was that's the beginning of how he started doing a lot of construction jobs. So that was one of the areas that we came down. So after that, we went down and he started staying. When he get married to my mother, my mother was the PA to Hong Leong Bank.
Okay.
Right, and my mother was a beautiful one, the Miss. I think Ipoh or Miss something, and he was very proud because he was not highly educated and also not very wealthy. And he said, I could get a catch like your mother, And he was saying, so my mother was actually the PA, as I mentioned, but she said, no. The founder of Hong Leong Bank, Kwek Ling Chan at that time, was going after my mother. So always in a Rolls Royce, picking my mother up and sending her back. And my mother said, no, rich man, the heart is not so good.
Okay.
She's a feeling, but she come from very poor beginnings. So she said, I go for a simple man who wants to look for a job, will take care of me and family, has time for me.
Wow, that's
so
beautiful. Yeah.
Happened to be my dad was there.
Okay.
Right, and so one thing led to another. They got married, and I don't know. I lost the question. What was the question again? Where did I come from? Right.
The question was more about you, right?
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, we saw so much story already. This is very impressive. I can already understand, okay, all the inputs and the ideas I got for you got for your life, right? So yeah, basically the question was about your story.
Okay.
But I can understand where your parents come from, gives us an idea where you come from also.
Right.
And so you went to school all in Ipoh, or you moved
to
KL already?
My dad married my mom in KL. We were in PJ specifically. And I think the moment she gave birth to me was unfortunate. She actually had what we call PMS, or PNS, postnatal syndrome. So it's a symptom or a sickness of sorts where they have I think women who are actually pregnant, there's a certain period of time that you need to manage that. So if you don't manage it, they will actually have stress, or they will tend to have I don't know how they will probably have what's the word I'm looking for? Depression, right? They will have depression. Wow. So to a certain part of my life, the beginning, the first 6 to 10 years, I actually blamed myself for it. Right, because I thought that I'm the one who caused her depression, so to speak.
I think that's difficult as a kid to understand, right?
Right.
And so, but how did that really? How did that affect you later in like growing up, right? So like for 6-8 years, but in school or like in university, how did that affect that? What was that like? Something that really you grew up with, still thinking, or even today, like still blaming you for that? Or?
Well, no, I blame myself for many years. So what happens, long story short, 1998, if I'm not mistaken, I finished my, my degree, right? And what happened was the market was so bad. It was so bad. And I decided to, do my master's. I thought having a master's would actually give me a better pay. So, I did my master's, and 2001, if I'm not mistaken, I graduated. And what happens when I came back and I applied for a job, and I got for PwC, Pricewaterhouse. And the interviewers looked at me and said, "Oh, very good, very good. But you cannot submit your master's degree." I go like, "Why?" Because the market is not good, and we don't recommend it. But if you submit your resume without your master's, we will consider your application. Okay. So I said, that means my pay will be lower, right? And it didn't say yes, it didn't say no, but it's understood, right? So I went to Ernst & Young, EY, Ernst & Young, and the same thing, I didn't submit the masters. So I think I did about 1.5 years in EY, but I realized that I was doing a lot of minion job. I was just a office boy, so to speak, carrying files.
Who can do everything, right?
Exactly. I was photocopying, and I was saying like, I studied so much, and I'm photocopying, I'm carrying. I think about 1.5 years, I decided like this is not for me. And especially they were very excited over boring things. They're trying to balance the accounts, bank reconciliation. I think they're trying to balance 7 cents, and I told myself, I'm not rich, but I have 10 cents here. Here's the money. I ain't doing this anymore. And I think my parents were very disappointed, because they whole belief that study very hard, work very hard, and you go track by track. You become a chartered accountant. You're set for life. And I go like, anything but that. So so that basically was where I was in terms of education.
Okay.
Right. But that didn't help me too much. I think a lot of my time was spent on sending my mother to and fro hospitals. So I think when I was in actually doing my degree, my mother had what we call breast cancer, right? Wow. And so she had a mastectomy, right? And then it spread to both her breasts, so she had double mastectomy. And all this was happening while I was in uni. My dad didn't tell me. And then it spread to the spine, right? And later, when my dad invited me back, doing my master's, I think he was telling me, I haven't seen you for a while, why don't you come back? I go like, sure, okay, no problem, And he didn't tell me why. But I went to the hospital. The hospital said, get your affairs in order. Please bring your mother back. Your mother has 3 months to live.
Wow,
only
that's
3.
A big surprise.
Big surprise. Well, I was fortunate to say that she actually lived up for another 6.5 years.
Okay.
Right, and most of my time was actually bringing her to and fro hospitals. And I think that time I learned what more like resilience. I learned what we call about people call about grit, about believing that there's something better. Because the doctor, not just one doctor, said your mother could stay 3 months. We went to see a few, and I saw my dad was really busy earning a lot of money just to pay for all the hospital bills. Right, and that happened for 6 years. I think we went to see the Chinese, Malay, Indian. We went to see all the different type of beliefs or alternative medicine just to hopefully cure her. But at that time I was not so savvy in terms of technology. But I think that there was a lot of times that I learned that it's similar to how you actually run a company. You cannot predict what's going to happen. You just have a little faith, right, and then just keep digging in. Keep digging in. So that's a bit on the downside, right?
I see.
But the fun side would be on 21 years old. For most boys, it's called the key of independence, right?
And here in Malaysia, right, it's 21.
21, yeah. So they gave the key of independence, so to speak. And my time, the internet was really slow. It's still dial-up, okay? And and we're trying to look at what we call internet. To what boys do at watch internet, right? They look at other alternative magazines. We call it. And it was loading really slow. And it was so slow that you couldn't even see anything. And I got annoyed. So at 21 years old, we had freedom. I said, okay, I decided to go to the bookshop, and hopefully buy some special magazines. I ended up looking very shy. So I went to the bookshop. Look. Then I saw my eyes saw this book, Losing My Virginity. And I go
I know who
that's the book, but I didn't know who he was. So I went and bought the book. It was nicely wrapped. I ran out, bought the book, went home, and started reading it. I was hoping to read some,
interesting stuff.
It is
interesting.
Was not what I was looking for, And I was looking, show me some pictures, some techniques, some anything. And I'm like, front to back. And I said I thought that was actually, so I pinned my vision to be, okay, if Richard Branson, I didn't know at the time, 400 companies at 55. I'm 21. I'm definitely got one thing he doesn't have. Age. Time, you see? So let's do it, Wow. So that's literally how the journey started of how becoming an entrepreneur. Because I was seeing how my dad was paying all the medical bills.
By buying the wrong book, basically.
I don't know about that, but So
That's amazing. I like the story. And we just discussed before, like how much time we have. Can we make it 1 hour? Cannot. Okay, so we have to move on. But I really like that. It's amazing. So you said 21, you started your first company then. Let's continue on this one. So this company, is it still existing?
No.
This one now,
unfortunately,
right?
no.
This one now.
Unfortunately,
okay.
no.
So that was one of the companies you continued learning and get your input for the next companies that you started, right?
Correct.
So I just calculate before, if you have 80 companies started up at the age when you started, must be like 4 to 6 companies a year that you started. That is impressive number. So I'm wondering like how you do that. How can you be so fast in starting new companies? I mean, normal people or other people, I would say, start maybe 0, 1 or 2 companies their entire life. You do 6, 5 every year. What's your recipe for that?
Okay. So if anyone asks me the question, I always say, if you want to know how to fail, give me a call. If you want to know how to succeed, probably I'm not your guy. Because out of 80 companies, I actually lost 50 of them year on year, or losing 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. Right? So that was the last 10 to 12 years. Truly, that was what was happening.
Yeah.
So lack of system, lack of structure, lack of strategies, lack of proper positioning, branding, and a lot of mixture of a lot of things. So that was that. But how did it start? The question was, how did it start? So the first company actually gave me the biggest epiphany. And because I always, when I was young, because of my upbringing, how I was always, I didn't see a lot of my dad, because he was always working, and my mom was always sick. So I was alone most of the time. So I was more of an introvert. I don't like to mix with people. I'm a very quiet individual. I keep to myself. And in school, I was always in the fear of something could go wrong. Right? But going home, I hardly see my dad, and my mom was always in the hospital. So I was always in the, what's plan B, plan C, you know. And in school and young days, I always remember, if you had a problem, I would want to solve it for you. But it was a very selfish reason. The reason was I didn't want that to happen to me, and if it doesn't happen to me, how do I solve it? So I think I probably practiced it when I was very young, how to solve problems at a very young age. Right, and now the saying people goes, it's if you solve a small problem, you get paid small in small amounts, but if you solve a big problem, you get paid, in big amounts. So I think that probably is one of the skills you go through it.
So find the problems really to solve, because that's in the end that's the beginning of like a new company. Right?
So for many that's a good point. See, for many companies, they always try to solve a problem. I don't necessarily agree that you solve a problem. Very simple right now. No disrespect. Doctors solve a problem, right? Right? Is that a good business to be in?
Well, for someone being sick, maybe I think it's a good business.
So for you and I, for people who are watching, what is your ultimate role? Not to get sick.
Yeah, true.
Right? So if your business is to cure sick people, and everyone else is, I don't want to get sick, I don't want to get sick. So can you imagine the mismatch of market? So then you end up selling a lot of things that get people more sick. But until today, don't quote me, based on a lot of research out there, a lot of medicine are actually getting us more weak than strong, right? So I mean, it's not a bad profession. I admit that this is actually a very intelligent way of living a life. I've seen many doctors who help my mom go through those things. I'm just saying that if you want to go head on and say that business is about solving problems, then that would be a very big challenge you're trying to take on. As opposed to, instead of solving a problem, why not look at the fact is, what is the big purpose you want to solve? So it's more positive aspect. What's the problem, but what's your purpose? So if you ask yourself right now, or this is the pain in the market, I solve it. But how long can this last? We don't know. Right? But if I want to solve a purpose in life or purpose in my business, then I know that this can grow on a scale. Right? So that's a different perspective. So when people ask us, what's our purpose for our publishing company, one of our companies that I founded with my friend. So I said, so we help ordinary people get recognized, right? Be remembered and not be forgotten in over 150 countries, in 30,000 platforms, across 30,000 platforms, via book publishing. So that's my purpose. We believe in actually capturing each and individual stories. So if every business out there, if you're looking at solving a problem, I think we do not know when the problem will last or when it can solve. But if you look at the purpose, then it drives you and your entire organization. Because nobody likes.
Sometimes you have to change the purpose because the need is not there anymore.
Correct.
And then you have to turn it around. Also.
So yeah.
Okay. So let me see. I'm lost a bit here because so many questions I still want to ask. So what motivates you still I mean, you're running still 23 companies actively right now,
Yes.
but you still do more startups. You're still starting more, right? What motivates you to start all over again and again, while still focusing also on running the other companies?
Right. So I think we all know that a majority of the world, whether it's US, UK or Malaysia, majority of the economy, I think 20, 30 some countries, 40% are run by SMEs or MSMEs, that means mid-sized startups, right? And they drive the bulk of the hire, they drive bulk of the economy, and these are really the people that are really helping the economy turn, right? And I think I've been in the so-called game, if you will, to say that, I've probably seen a lot of things I have seen, and if I could just help one or two person avoid one or two, bad routes, or guide them to a better route, because a lot of questions are more or less the same. But I realized being mentors in a few organizations, whether I just finished one in Iskandar, so they invited me to actually share one day to mentor the NGOs, GLCs, and I realized that the problems are more or less the same. They are focusing on what are the issues, as opposed to then. So when you focus on a problem, staff who follow you are not interested. What are the biggest challenges for staff? They just want to have a pay. But if you have a purpose, that drives the team, that drives the staff, right? So some people talk about vision, mission, those are good, but I feel that a vision, mission is more internal. It's more for selfish reasons. But when you say a purpose, it's more of an external.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So coming from that point of view, we need to find your own individual purpose, and hopefully there's a market need, and when you have a match, and that's how.
Okay.
But all the greatest brands that I've studied, right, always have that purpose.
Okay.
Right. If you go for Apple, right, and their purpose is to be different, think different, right, and the products they come up with are very different, and that's why they have a following.
Yeah. Sure. So when we that's a very good point you just made. So when we talk about the brands or like the successful brands, you also mentioned that you have 5 companies that made the valuation more than $1 million, right? Which is quite impressive. 5 companies that you started up. Is those 5 companies what you define your own success, or how would you define success in general, or is this like, okay, it's just one part, but there's something more important that you define as your personal success?
But very good question. I mean, if you asked me probably 10 years ago, my answer would be different. Now is just the ability to wake up every day, knowing I'm alive, and I look left, my wife is there, she's alive, she's happy. I look right, my kids are happy and alive. I think that actually drives what I call is more success driven for me.
Okay.
Right, and my ultimate purpose for my family was to be able to downsize some of the companies, shrink them to a size that we keep what's working, and what's not working, we either sell them or we close them down. So my purpose is to be able to bring one child on 1 month away. I think the best way to learn is to bring overseas and stay with them and just one-on-one. So I've got 3 children, right? Can you imagine? So one, and my wife will be very unhappy, right? So definitely I'm gonna bring her around, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes 4, right?
4, right? So then after they all be complaining. So 5 months a year I'm gonna be away.
Wow.
Because only bring the 5th one will be I'll be going all of us together, right?
Yes.
Right. So at least me there's not a lot of months in a year, but I believe that if I design my companies right now, then I would have a better, more balanced life. I don't believe in a balanced life, but I believe I'll be more, how shall I call it? I'll be more satisfied or contented, right? So that'll be more meaningful, I think, going forward.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So different times, different definition of success, of course. So when we come to the opposite of the success, obviously, I would like to talk about not necessarily failures, but like let's say some companies failed, or you terminated them. Some you also sold. So out of the 80, you said 30 still running, 50 not running. But what is like for you personally, like some of the big mistakes or failures that you learned from that made you more successful later?
So, I mean, I'm not sure you got all time here today, but but in summary, I think it was a couple of things. I think the first one was how do we think? You'd be surprised. I was doing a lot of reading and a lot of meeting a lot of founders or company researching. I said that in general, most people do not know how to think. We always think it's very simple. Just think, And I realized that why do Fortune 500 companies? Why I think a good 40%, if I'm not mistaken, are actually Jews. They're not even us. They're not even Chinese, Malay, Indian. They're none of those. But why?
Yeah.
So it's because of their upbringing, how they were taught to think.
Okay.
So one of my good friends was fortunate to actually live with a Jew for about 9 months, and it blew his mind. He said how they raise the child up versus how Asians raise a child up are entirely different.
Yeah.
Right? And if I could share, one of them was at 1 year old, they teach their child the reality of life. For us, it's no, you can't watch this movie, you can't play this iPad, you don't do this, it's everything a no. It's 9 out of 10 things you say no to, right?
Yeah.
But for them, they show them the reality of the world. That's number one. Number two, they actually ask them very insightful questions. They teach them how to think, and they have conversations about those. For us, for Chinese especially, right? If you have some comment or feedback, they keep quiet. Follow me. I'm right. The whole saying of I eat more rice than you eat more. Some there's a saying about it. And I go like, okay, but imagine having that, growing up from that, having a constructive conversation at the age of 1.
It's a different way to grow up,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So a lot of people tell me running a business, doing a startup is a numbers game. And if this one don't work, we try another one. So I had that mentality, right? And I'm going like 1, 2, 3. If this won't work, this will work. But I realized I was very naive because there was no mindset. My mindset was not right. I didn't know how to think of the right things. I didn't have the right skills. I didn't have the right tools, and my heart was not in the right place.
Okay.
So people actually, a lot of people do startup. Let's be honest, their skills are not very high, but their mind is like super optimistic. Everything is possible. Nothing is impossible.
Okay.
Right? So they lack the skills, the tools they probably leverage on technology. But what's missing, I realized in the past many years, is their heart. Their heart is not in the right place. So for my dad, at that point of time, he had no choice. In the sense, I can only do construction business. I don't have a freedom of choice. If this doesn't work, I will try something else. If this doesn't work, I try something else. He said I have to make it or break it. But for us right now, we are more towards quality of life.
So you would say there's no specific thing you could really say as like what you learn is like everything, right? It's like a lot of learnings, a lot of failures or things you have to adjust to make it better. Is that what you?
Yeah, I mean, for me was if you want to, probably you want to take another session on just 3 days, just to explain. But the fact of the matter is, how is our ability to think? That's the first one. The second, what are the levels of skills you have, right? And then after that, what sort of tools you have. So I always share this when people ask me, how do you find your co-founder? How do you find your business partner? And I said, 10 out of 10 times I ask this question, everybody will say, first one they'll say, is he rich? Right? Does he have finances? Does he have firepower? Does he have, that's the number one criteria. Okay. Number two, if he's rich, he's not so rich, but he's well connected. This guy, if I call Patrick and he goes like, who do you want to know? And I'll connect you. He's the guy. So well connected. The third one he look for is, so I'm not so rich, I'm not so connected, but he is super, we call a savvy in terms of certain skill sets. Right? It's like very technology. Just give him some device, you're like probably hack it. Number three. Number two. Very, very skillful. So doesn't use a lot of tools, but maybe he's very good in sales, very good in marketing, right? And I said, none of this should be your top criteria. There's only one criteria.
Okay.
The first criteria should be the attitude of the founder, integrity of the founder, trustworthiness of the founder. Most people end up doing it the other way around. Are they rich? Are they well connected? Right? And I said, no, it should be this way. Look at the attitude first.
Okay.
Can I trust you? So when I trust you, there are three. Can I trust you in my life? Can I trust you with my wife? Can I trust you with my money? If you think about it, right? Most times our friends, our brothers, we trust them with our life. Money and wife, we're like, maybe not, So, that's a 3 level. Do I trust you? I say, yeah, I trust you. With my wife and my money, I'll think about it, But my life, I trust you.
Okay.
So that's a level of trust, right? So
I need to rethink about that. It's like interesting. It's an interesting point, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially you separate by what you trust, right? It's not
Correct.
just a general question of trust, right? It's
Correct.
like what you're trusting.
Right. So how are we giving micro promises that people can trust us eventually?
Okay.
Right. But most people don't actually jump into, it's almost like when we go on a date. You don't like the first time I meet you, marry me. I mean, the girl will run away, and you like, you take time.
Yeah.
I don't know what day my wife actually fell in love with me. I can't tell. Was it the first date or 1 year later? But somewhere around probably the 1 to 3 years, you're like, okay, I can trust this guy. Probably he won't hurt me, and why not?
That always needs time, right? To
Yeah.
find the right people that you can then like put in the role that you really need.
Right. So look at attitude. I think the most important for me now was looking at attitude for founders. Initially, I was looking for, okay, if you're rich, you're my guy. You're connected. Let's work together. You are very skillful. Let's work together. Now my priorities are very clear. Okay. I have a few conversations with you, and if I found out on certain meetings, it's very simple. How do you know I can trust you? If you say that you meet at 2:30, I expect you to meet here at 2:30. I mean, if something happens, then it's fine, But at 2:45, you don't call me. At 3 o'clock, you don't tell me, and you go like 4 o'clock. Oh, I'm so sorry, And that's the first time, fine. But if it happens 1 or 2 times, you kind of know probably how you do anything is how you do everything. If I can't trust you with the small things, can you imagine trusting you in a big company? So I think those were my little takeaways, learning, growing.
That's awesome, man. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's
Happy
cool. I want to direct the discussion now to the local market here, and I heard or follow a lot of discussions always when companies grow out of Malaysia, they become big or bigger, and then the discussion is Malaysia still the right marketplace or the right place to be with the company? Like the so-called unicorns, and of course always Grab comes into discussion. At a certain size it moved into Singapore. It's still a Malaysian company, but not really. Now it's a Singaporean. What is your point of view in this? What is your the challenges you faced in the Malaysian market? Was it for you even like at one point important or an idea? Oh, I cannot do whatever I need to do here in Malaysia. I need to like sign up the companies in Singapore or other countries, right?
Okay. Very good question. I get it a lot. But how I come at it is very simple. Regardless of where you're born or what company you start up, there's always opportunity. Most people cannot spot opportunity. Most people focus on their problems, pains, right? Now, opportunity is everywhere. Do you have the right perspective to capture it, right? Most people just want to solve a small problem, So I look at the fact that I think countries like Malaysia is amazing opportunities, right? And if you live in other countries, you may not get this kind of opportunities. And when times are bad or there's a change of government of sorts, where there'll be an excuse or reason why business are not performing up to the optimum, is the fact that they do not want to change or pivot, right? And they tend to focus on, this is bad, economy change is bad. But truth be told, in the worst of economies, most millionaires are born.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Go to research. Go read your TED. I've seen a lot of TED talks, done a lot of research. In the worst of times, most millionaires are born. Why aren't you and I in that statistics, in that category? Why are we saying, we can't do it, right? So that gives me going. So what do those people have that we don't? In terms of their mind, their skills, their tools they're using, what do they have that we are not open to? And that's what I look for, right? And look at that, because I think Malaysia is abundant of opportunity, right? Right. start with the attitude, and then you get all the things right. I've seen it happen so many times. A lot of times, a lot of companies, they come to me when I mentor them and advise them. I realize their partners have issues, right? Not even the system, not even the structure. They have probably team issues. The team do not want to listen to them, right? And they're working very hard, but they're not working smart. So I think that's hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. I mean, it partly answers it, of course, but I can understand what is your point or your takes from this, and I think it's quite interesting and helpful. I hope also helps the larger companies to understand why they should stay or can stay also in Malaysia, right, to be successful. So you just mentioned mentorship or companies that you're mentoring. I think maybe the audience here want to know also how can they get mentorship from you? What is for you the key points that you are interested in a company or a mentorship to individuals? What really attracts you?
So I don't mentor. I don't specifically go out there and mentor people. I have. To be very honest with you, I've actually picked certain companies that I feel that they have a better growth, right? And they're willing to listen, right? They're open, they're teachable, and then I help and mentor them. So many times right now I've coached companies who are actually from almost bankrupt to multi-millions, short 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Right. But if you must, a lot of mentees, a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues been asking to share a lot more like this, give me the privilege to share. So the first time, this Saturday, I think it's somewhere in Bangsa, in Saturday, right, from I think half a day or a 1 day event, right, I'll be actually sharing the frameworks, the systems that actually came together that I built, right, and we took it with a team of friends and starting a lot of companies. Right, and that will probably a first start to see whether we're a good fit. So I think it has to be both ways.
So that's this Saturday. Saturday. I'm not sure when we're publishing this is October 12th, right? Yeah.
That's right.
So it's a public event or?
It's an invite-only event. Invite certain people. It's not for mass market.
Okay.
Right, and so December I'm launching my book. It's called the Art and Science of New Profits.
Okay.
So in this day and age, I think majority of companies are unable to see where the new areas of profiting is. They're very fixated on just making money this way. But I realized there are actually 3 different ways that you can monetize almost across regardless of the economy.
That's your 3rd book already.
Third one, that's right.
Third one, okay, that's cool.
I remember.
Yeah. I noted it somewhere, so it's good I remember correctly. I think we come to final questions. I talk about you mentoring companies, but who were your mentors, who or your role models, who were the people you obviously Richard Branson was one of those. I just learned today, which I think is great. I also read a lot of his books. I think they're awesome and taught me a lot also for running businesses or how to even life lessons, I would say. Or who else is in your list of mentors?
So I think top of the list, seeing how my dad ran his companies. Right, how he ran his construction company, and that gave me a lot of knowledge to spill over. That's the number one. Number 2 was the fact that I read quite a lot. Right, Asian people don't read a lot, but the CEO of US or American companies, they read on average about 5 to 6 books a month. Right. So we don't read 1 or 2 books a year, So apart from books, it depends on how you get engaged. I spend a good every quarter, probably 3 to 4 days attending seminars. Right, so pick a seminar that is different that you need to grow in. Don't pick a seminar you like. A lot of people go for seminars that they like. I want to learn, right? And I pick for seminars that I want to grow. Probably I'm weak at in terms of my skills or my tools or my mindset, and then I go and improve it there. So I'll pick seminars to grow, right? And that I think that has helped me in terms of the books, in terms of seminars, and also speaking sometimes to real people who have just been there and done that.
Okay.
Right.
Good. So maybe the final question, and maybe your ideas or your tip to the students, to the young entrepreneurs that are not sure if they should start or if they want to start or how to start. What is your take? And please don't use the "screw it, let's do it" sentence. Okay. But what is your own motivational point here to tell the guys?
Well, if you ask me, don't start a business.
I'm surprised.
I'm serious, don't. It's not for everyone. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Not everyone is cut out for it. Right? Many definitions of entrepreneurship. The one that comes to mind right now is the ability to withstand long pain for long periods of time is entrepreneurship. There is some truth there, I think, but I think probably the first hardest skill will be parenting. The second one will be entrepreneurship. But if you must choose entrepreneurship, then learn first. A lot of young people I realize out there, they want to run first. So imagine right now, you do not know how to run, but everyone is running, but you're a baby. So what happens? You fall harder than everyone else. And the saying goes, don't worry, just get up and do again. Get up and do again. And that is dumb advice.
Okay. Yeah.
That is the worst advice ever. Just like if sales is a numbers game, it's the worst advice to give anyone. It's not a numbers game. It is only a numbers game because you do not know what you're doing.
Okay.
You have no clue, and that's why it's a numbers game. I fail. Oh, I don't do this. I try. I don't know. But honestly, if there's a framework and someone guiding you, don't you think you'll save time? So instead of being fixated that I can do it myself, the simple way is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you networking upwards? A lot of your network, same. Right? So I call this the 33% rule. Over a period of 1 year, take your calendar, you mark it down. 33% of the time, you spend with people who are 5 to 10 years above your age. Spend time. Another 33%, you spend with people who are same level with you. You can bounce ideas off, you can say some silly things. And the next 33% of the time you spend with people who are up and coming.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, just having that, just look at your circle. Most people will spend time with either the middle or the lower. They don't spend time with people who are actually 5 to 10 years either in the industry or been there.
Okay. That's awesome. I think that's a very good last sentence to close this interview. Thank you so much
thank you
for coming and sharing. I hope it was as valuable to you as for me also. I really like that. Thank you so much for your time coming here.
Welcome.
And I hope we see you all in the next episode also. Thank you very much for watching.
All right.